incredible project, it's hard to believe, right? It's hard to believe. It's also hard to believe in terms of the management issues that the governments have asked the Waterfront to speed up their infrastructure projects. I mean, we're in a moment that's really a crisis, but they actually asked the Waterfront, can you move this further ahead, faster? And so what they're doing is they're streamlining the EA process, which has been the bane of the existence of most grand projets. I mean, the EA process will bring you down. It will take you so long to get through. But the thing that I hear happening is they're actually realizing that we'll just simplify the EA, okay? Because the benefits are going to far outweigh the impacts by a long shot. So those two projects, and that River Park that Van Valkenburg's doing, I think are fundamental, more than any building. I like Saussier's building. I like a lot of things. I like People's Pavilion. But the big moves, okay, are those other moves.
Let me jump in.
I hope we get those right.
I know we're pressed for time. Ken, you started, and I want to cut to the chase here. Conservation Authority and parks and planning, they as us, right? They ain't somebody else. They're people in this room, and the people that you teach and that you hire and we practice with. And when you present all of this, I sit there and I say, I wish I was an architect. It's so obvious. Like, it's such no-brainer stuff when you do that. And I want to push, Ken, where you started, and push you further. And I want to say, in terms of practice, and in terms of doing stuff, why then does it seem to be so bloody hard for people to get it? And the people is us,
right,
that we work side by side with out there. So ecologically, environmentally, man, I want to walk out of here and say, this is no-brainer stuff. Why can't we get it?
Institutions have cultures.
Yeah, but that's way too simple.
The flip side of that, the thing that really catches my attention is that in this room, Canadians, 80+% favorable rating for Barack Obama. Like that's off the charts. No politician deserves 80%, but they couldn't get it even if they did. But on an individual level, the Americans on a ratio of like 3 to 4 to 1 over Canadians actually believe individually they're actually going to make a difference. I think that's profound analysis of who we are as Canadians. On the one hand, we have the best of social sort of systems, but at an individual level, which is individuals, like individual graduates, you have, Americans actually say, we're going to go out there and do something. It may be our last hope. See, he says everything I believe in, actually. Yeah. Everything. His speech, the last speech was incredible. I mean, I love Ken Greenburg as a speaker, but I think Obama said a great speech. but Americans may have a chance to do it. It's got a long way to go. But Canadians, the real issue is we're too complacent. We have too good a quality of life that we don't realize how good it is until it's gone.
Yeah,
I want to add something to that, and it is both the most frustrating thing and the magic of doing a project like this. And I'm going to tell you one of the best moments that occurred recently. One of the city engineers, a very senior engineer in public works, I was tempted to mention his name, but I'm embarrassing. We have a steering group that meets periodically, and we have heads of all the departments who are sitting there, and we present each stage in iteration. And when we first started these meetings, people would very carefully speak from within their area of expertise. They would speak as delegates of the departments that sent them. And in the last meeting, this senior traffic engineer got into a whole thing with us about the shaping of the topography in the park. And what would the views be like, and what it would be like to take his kids there and have a picnic. And that is when people drop their silence and they say, I'm approaching this as an intelligent human being, and I'm willing to engage with other people, and we're willing to try lateral thinking and try ideas on for size. And maybe having the perfect turning radius or the ideal loading dock is the price you will pay for that of having a lousy street is worth thinking about. And if you can create the right conditions, the right circumstances for those kinds of discussions, and you can present the material in the right way, and people drop their guard and they engage with each other, spectacular things can happen. And you're absolutely right. There is no they here. It's about us.
Hugo?
Yeah, I think, firstly, this isn't a Canadian problem or an American problem. The silo mentality that the sort of institutional issues that gives they're universal. They're about part of trying to get to grips with issues that have been undealt with for a long time in our city. We've just gone on doing things in a pretty mean and miserable way, often driven by the excessive private capital. You can see opportunities to do various things around them. And either because government has a very iron ball, or because they collude with that, a failure of any sort of leadership coming from the public sector, actually with a vision. So we can actually set up different sorts of institutions. The project at Don River is only possible because there is a new sort of governance or at least a revitalizing of a sense of how Toronto can take a grip on how to do things. What you're chairing is, it's an old model, but it's a new political version of that model with a sense of real responsibility and drive. And then everybody starts to come on board. Getting that right is incredibly difficult. And the story I should tell later about London, again and again, we've failed to get that right. We invent new institutions, we say it's all going to happen. It doesn't happen. Either gets ripped off by the private sector, and then they walk away from the mess, or it just gets stuck in some mega government organisation that nobody is prepared to do anything with it. So it is a huge problem. And the bigger the ecological and economic issue, the more difficult it is to get to. I think what's impressive about what we've seen now is that these are big issues. But for the scale of Toronto, this is big stuff. And there is a real sense that something's going to happen. It's not just talk.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, for me, the thing is when they said, you want to do the design panel thing, I really started from a kind of negative position. I really don't waste my time. I listened to them a lot about what their goals were, and I really was, they had to coach me out of some sort of cynical, jaded position, because my position up to then was just two great buildings, individual buildings, and they'll be exemplars. That's my other position, that one building can actually make a huge difference the way you perceive something that's much bigger. And I still believe that's possible. I mean, you see it, there are many, many great examples where, I always say, every single building you design implies a city. It does, whether you're conscious of it or not. But even if it's a terrible big box retail building, it implies a city. And so I still believe that. But what I saw with the Waterfront was a chance to maybe, in our time, do something that I actually believe was correct, at the larger scale of planning and urban design and process. And so I've stuck at it because I think it's an important thing for me to do. I mean, I think I can make a difference, and I do believe that there will be a point. This is when I'll get off the panel, when we see things tip. And all of a sudden, all of those projects, which are side-by-side, landscape, public realm, individual buildings, then I'll say, well, we've done something, and I think it'll be great. But we're not there yet, and it has to do with just keeping that momentum up and keeping the pressure on. But I think the reason I presented the cultural renaissance is because I never believed that would happen either, but it happened. It's extraordinary, and there's a healthcare renaissance going on now. The universities led the way. I think what Larry Richards did at U of T will be a big chapter in the history of architecture of the city. But he was in a good place. I mean, the University of Toronto was open to that. We're talking about the Waterfront. We're talking about making amends for like decades of really bad. You can't look at it and say, well, it's neutral. It's not neutral. It's actually really a negative starting position.
So far you've used, though, a kind of, the thing that's been effective in my mind is that you've used a design paradigm to